Welcome to Autism Insights. I'm Bill Locke, your host, father of a 29-year-old with autism and a volunteer with Autism Calgary.
Having repetitive behavior, so they may have associated problems like OCD, ADHD, anxiety in a way.
Welcome to our third episode of Autism Insights. I'm Bill Locke, your host. We're going to start today's episode by hearing how Terrance Malkinson discovered that he was on the autism spectrum. Today, he shares with us how that discovery affected his life.
Once I retired, you had more time, and you weren't so involved with work activities and things like that. So it gives you more time to reflect upon your past and what you've done in your life, and perhaps on where you want to go in the future. I did lots of walks up in the mountains, hikes in the mountains, which are very fresh oxygen. It's good. It stimulates the brain. So you got to thinking about things, and you thought, so why am I different, and different not in a bad way or anything like that, than other people? Why do I have so much difficulty with social interactions with women? And difficulty in approaching people and socializing in that way. And it started to bother me why it was this case. And other people seem to be so easy for them to do. Go to parties and do things and socialize, and it wasn't so easy for me. I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong with me or something, But I mean, it didn't seem to affect my life. I was still a very happy person and everything. But well, maybe I'll get this checked out. So I talked to a friend of mine who's a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, and I told him, he asked me some questions, and I told him, how I felt and the way things are going. And he asked me more questions, and his diagnosis was that, I had a form of autism called Asperger's autism. And he said, he told me about it. It's not a serious thing. It's not life-threatening. It's not that debilitating. And in fact, in many ways, it's a type of autism that it means that you have some unique talents, quite frankly, that other people don't have. And he said that may explain why you were so good at science and why you were so persistent in achieving, when you set a goal, that you want to achieve that goal. And he said not to worry about it. He says there's many people have autism, and he said if you search out the internet, you'll find that many outstanding people, politicians, well, I guess skip that, many outstanding business leaders and actors and very gifted creative people also are on the autism spectrum at various levels. And he said, so don't feel badly about it. He said, that's just the way you are. And our system, we're finding more and more, learning more and more about autism, and there's more and more information being conveyed to the public about what autistic people are like and how to work with them, and you working with other people. And he said, you'll be fine. So that was actually a sense of relief that was the diagnosis. That now I sort of knew why I was having difficulty in social interactions, and it was really, it was really good to sort of come out to my friends and stuff that I am autistic. I mean, they've been nothing but understanding, and I said, "Oh, yeah, we understand, and no problem." So nobody's left me, no friends have left or anything like that because of it. It's just It's the way it is. Everybody's different. And it's one of the things that's happening in the world now, that we're learning more and more about how the brain works, and that everybody is unique individuals. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, and many of us have syndromes like autism. And there's many other similar things where you're just, it's just the way life is, the way the brain works. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way you are. And you accept it, and you learn how to cope with it, and you do well.
In our first episode, John Seigner told us the story of his best buddy and son, Andrew. In his professional life, John works at the Seigner Family Foundation, helping to develop housing solutions for people living with autism. As John explains, housing is much more than just having a roof over our heads. So John, tell me why support is important when we talk about housing.
Well, of course, every individual on the spectrum is different and will need a different degree of support. My son Andrew, for example, he is nonverbal. Now, he's pretty independent, but he needs help with certain things. So getting ready at the beginning of the day, he can dress himself, but he needs a bit of a prompt from time to time. Breakfast, yes, he can help out, but somebody has to sort of supervise him doing that. And then he would probably need some sort of day program. And obviously he can't speak for himself. So that's a challenge. Now, as you go up through the spectrum, kids that are more and more independent, they don't need that kind of thing, but they still may need, for example, they need to be safe and secure. Often kids on the spectrum have challenges in assessing people, and they can easily be taken advantage of, even though they seem like they're, perfectly fine. They may have challenges managing money, understanding money, how to get it, how to spend it, how to save it. They may even need employment support. So it all depends on the individual. And of course, every housing placement we make, we need to design and create the appropriate support for the person.
Like what is different, or what often needs to be considered that isn't often considered when you talk about housing with sensory integration problems and so on?
Yeah, and so I think you put your finger on it, Bill. Probably the biggest single challenge is sensory integration for kids on the spectrum. And the single most common issue that we deal with is noise. So they're really challenged by noise that they can't control, and can often be quite obsessive about it. But other sensory issues, smell, noise, any sensory issues are going to be a problem depending on the individual. So that's part of it. I think the other thing again is I go back to safety, making sure, for example, if there's an apartment building, there's some sort of controlled access, and there's someone who can help them to make decisions, perhaps, if they need to. So that sort of safety and security is really pretty key. Fortunately, most kids on the spectrum don't need, other than sensory issues, they don't need a huge accommodation. Having said that, the one thing they almost all do need is affordability, because really most kids in the spectrum are not working. Something like 80% are not working. Some of them may have part-time jobs, but they're often living on AISH, which is a government grant program. $1,688 a month doesn't go very far. So they really need low-income housing, safe, secure, low-income housing.
Dr. Roger Thomas returns, sharing some practical advice on building relationships and the importance of family.
The family have lived with this person their entire life. They know them extremely well. They know what upsets them. They know what helps their life go well. They detect problems in health that the person may not be able to verbalize and can describe them very clearly. It would be a fatal mistake just to talk to the person with ASD unless they're very high functioning without taking in the full spectrum of what the relatives have observed and tried and have found does not work and found what does work.
One of the catchphrases in the autism world is that there are no two people alike with autism, that it's a very broad sort of spectrum, and the family probably is able to spell out, articulate to others and to the individual himself or herself as well or better than sometimes the individual himself or herself.
As you say, there's a very wide spectrum. Two of the key problems are slight difficulty relating to people and viewing other people's viewpoints, rigidity in that regard. And secondly, having repetitive behaviors, and they may have associated problems like OCD, ADHD, anxiety. In a way, it is an anxiety disorder. So therefore, it's very important to consider I'm dealing with a person who has possibly fixed ideas, difficulty in relating to me and looking in my eyes, and difficulty perhaps in understanding because they're not terribly used to doing this. Therefore, I must spend time getting to know them. And as we know in every relationship, liking somebody and trusting them is the gateway to progress and cooperating.
Thanks for watching this episode of Autism Insights. Next time, join us as we hear from Dr. Joel Christie about the pressures we face in our lives. We'll also get some great advice from Terrance Malkinson on how to deal with anxiety. And finally, we'll hear Maureen Bennie's personal story. See you next time. I'm Bill Locke.